All right, well, here we go.
Okay.
Okay. Today we're here with Tim Bpurquin, the co-founder of TraderInterviews.com. Welcome, Tim.
Thanks, Casey, for having me. Appreciate it.
We're going to have a short interview and get some good information from Tim today. Okay. I wanted to first ask you about your background and when you started trading and if you could share how it happened.
Sure. So it's a bit of a long story. I'll shorten it for you. I was I'm a police officer with LAPD, and when I was in the police academy, there was a guy who was in the academy who was day trading stocks before it was ever a term that anybody knew. And on these days, I went through the LA Police Academy in the middle of the summer, and on these days when we'd have these death runs for like 15 miles and it was 110 out there, we would talk about stock trading to keep our minds off of how the fact that our bodies were, killing us and how hot and how thirsty we are. So this guy just brought it up one day that he was trading stocks and how much money he had made by calling his broker and buying and selling in the same day. And I thought, well, that's interesting. And so after I got out of the academy, I worked the 2 p.m. to 2 a.m. shift with LAPD, and so that left me on the West Coast to trade the stocks in the morning. So I would get up and start trading at 6:30, trade till 1, and then go to work as a cop and chase bad guys all night at LAPD. And so I went at first to – this was before – I think there was just starting to be online brokers. There were like two. And I started actually out in currency trading. I kind of did it backwards. I went and started trading currency before I even traded stocks online. And back then, it really, truly was the Wild West. I mean, you had to run a third-party quote system right next to your platform because you did not trust that your broker was giving you the correct quotes on currency. And the spreads would get wide, and they would literally just stop trading. They would not take your order when stuff happened. It was just terrible. I mean, it's just a miracle that any of us survived that time period or even made any money at all. It took me about 3 years to turn about $6,000 into $70,000. So 3 years is a long time. I mean, these days I'm sure there are guys that make that in a day, of course. But for me, that was a huge deal. From not knowing anything about trading to 3 years later having 10 times my money. I thought that was the greatest thing ever. I went looking for a conference on how to learn how to trade better. There wasn't one, so I started one and with trading and the conference, now it's called the Traders Expo. With those things, I was able to quit my job as a cop. I'm still a reserve. I still go put on a uniform and go chase bad guys a couple times a month just for fun and keep my licenses up. But trading and my other businesses are my full-time thing now. So I got into it just on a whim from another cop, and it's worked out pretty well. I've had good years. I've had bad years, good weeks, bad weeks, just like everybody else. And I feel like I'm still learning. I'm still learning how to do this well and kind of getting my feel for my own little system and strategy that works.
Well, thanks for that. That was good information. Also, thanks for serving as a police officer, putting your life on the line to protect the community. I appreciate officers. So
Yeah, no problem. But I've always said that now I go out and I do my shift as a police officer, and it's so much less stressful than trading. I mean, trading was always like the most stressful part of my day. And, going out and chasing a guy with a gun down an alley was like, this is no big deal. After you've got money on the line, it just seemed like it was so much more stressful to trade. So I feel like that was really the hardest part of my day was doing that.
Wow, that's interesting to know. I bet a lot of people would not think that would be the case, actually.
I know
There's
it's
a
a
lot
weird
of fear involved in being a police officer because your life is in danger rather than just a little bit of money.
Yeah, sometimes you feel like it is your life. I think when you put in a little bit too much and you're kind of beyond that risk parameter that you set for yourself, and you've broken some of your rules, and you say, I'm going to let this go down a little bit longer before I get out, stuff like that, it just feels a lot worse.
Yeah, I understand that for sure. What was it that actually made you want to start interviewing traders?
Yeah, that kind of happened kind of by itself as well. I mean, I knew that the best way for me to increase my skills the fastest was to go out and actually talk to people that were already doing it. So this guy that was the other officer in the academy with you probably rued the day that he ever told me about this, because then from every day thereafter, I would just drill him about how he was trading, the strategies he was using. And that's really how I learned best. I mean, I read books and I took courses and I did that as well. But I just found that when I got together with other traders and talked to them about their strategies and how they approach the market and what they were looking for every day. That's when I really made these large leaps and got to the next level of my trading every time I got to do that. And so one of the days, one day I actually literally put an article or an ad in the paper saying, are there any other traders out there that want to meet for breakfast? And I talk about this in a video I did on my site about how this whole thing started. But 4 other traders showed up, and we had breakfast, and I just put a little recorder in the middle of the table. And I must have listened to this 2-hour breakfast of us just talking about trading over and over and over again. And I thought, if I can go out and find other guys that are willing to talk to me, then I beg them to talk to me about how they do it, then I can really kind of take a little bit of everybody's thing that I think fits me and fits my personality and fits my risk tolerance and develop my own strategy from that. And so I started interviewing anybody I could find. I would talk to people and say, do you know anybody who's trading? Can I talk to them? Were they willing to get on the phone with me? And I thought this would really be valuable to a lot of different people. So I started putting the interviews online. And I did that, I guess, probably starting in 2000. Some of the interviews were absolutely awful. And, they were 10 minutes and I couldn't get the questions out right. And the strategy didn't even make sense to me when I was talking to them. And then other times they were really good. And so I knew that, I'm just going to take a little bit of everybody. Not every interview is going to be a home run. Some of them are going to be great. And I'm at the point now where I only have to put up ones that are great because I talk to enough people now that I kind of be choosy about who I interview. But if there's something that I can gather from their strategy, even if they're futures traders and I don't trade much futures or options and I don't trade many options, there's something about just hearing about a real person who's making a living doing this or a very good income, even if they have their career, that I think is really helpful. And there wasn't anybody else doing it out there. There are a few people doing interview sites these days, but I think I really take pride in diving right into it. And I really want to know for myself. I get to the heart of the matter very quickly. What is it that you're doing that helps you make money? Some people are very good at describing it. Others not so much. But I think every interview, my goal is to just get 1 or 2 things that I can add to my own strategy. And I think that's what people who hear the interviews now, I think that's what I'm trying to get out of it as well. It's not a holy grail thing, but it's people, 99% of them who have nothing to sell, that's in it for them to talk to me. But I've either talked them into it or a friend of a friend has talked them into it. And you get this kind of really unvarnished truth about what it takes to be successful trading. I think that's where the real benefit of it is, because you're getting it from people that are actually doing this for a living.
So when you first started it, when you first started interviewing, it was for your own trading purposes. That was the reason you began.
Absolutely. And pretty much it still is. These guys I talk to, I actually ask questions that I'm genuinely interested in knowing the answer to myself. Because I think that I'm pretty much your typical average trader. I kind of fit the audience of other traders out there that I think that want to know this stuff. So people send me suggestions now for questions I should ask. One of my favorite questions is, what did you do during the learning phase of this that you felt really took you to the next level? What gave you that confidence that you have today? Was it something specific? Was it a book you read? Was it a course you took? Was it a strategy you found? Was it an indicator you started using in a special way? And so you start asking enough of these questions, you start to hear over and over again some of the same answers, but they're applying it to a little bit different market or a little bit different way. And so you just kind of combine all these things to form your own strategy, and it allows you to do that so you have this firm foundation going forward from that point.
Well, that's good. I like that. I've heard a lot of people say with trading that if you talk to any other traders and you listen to their strategy, then that creates confusion. And like if you try to follow another trader or something like that. But I don't think I agree with that. I think I agree with what you're saying. Talking to other traders is beneficial.
It is. I mean, I'll be the first to say that you're not going to find one strategy in an interview that's going to be the holy grail for you, and you're going to go on to make millions of dollars. I think that when I talk to traders, I'm trying to get 1 or 2 things that I can add. So I'm not looking for an entire system. I mean, there are traders that have come on to the show and talked about exactly what they're doing in very specific detail. But it's just the same as if you sat next to a fantastic trader for a month or 2 months or a year, your ability to absolutely duplicate exactly what that trader is doing is pretty slim. Because we can get you 90% of the right way there, right? We'll tell you exactly what software we're using. the indicators I watch, the time of day, the market, the behavior of certain stocks that I find that I just am able to feel well, so I trade these stocks. But then there's this last 10% that is this gut feel of a trader. It's really hard to quantify and really hard to describe. And so you can get 90% of the way there. The other 10% has to almost come from you specifically, where you just start to get this experience and feel and this kind of Zen, stupid, I don't know, the Zen with the market, right? That you have a feel.
Like in the zone, right?
I guess that's what it is. And I have a hard time describing it because I'm not exactly sure, even after doing this for so long, what exactly it is. But there's this last 10% of trading success that is gut feel trading. It's just something you have to develop over time.
Yeah, wow, okay. Well, so you produce interviews, and it's a service for traders. Has this service helped other traders from listening to your interviews?
I think so. I mean, I get emails quite a bit from people who say, this interview really helped me. I had similar ideas about this, but really could never make it work for me until I heard this interview. But it's funny too. I mean, some of the interviews, people will say, Tim, that just wasn't your best. I mean, you've got other interviews that are a lot better. And then 5 minutes later, I'll get an email from somebody saying that was the best interview you've ever done. And so it's a very personal thing about which interviews kind of resonate with people. So that's why I never know. I have an idea of the level of quality of one in an interview, but I never quite know which ones are really going to be popular until they're up and people start listening and they start commenting on them. And so, yeah, I mean, I do think, and obviously I'm biased because it's my service, but I really do feel like it's unique out there. There's nothing else out there like it, and it really does help people get to the next level of experience and profitability. We're all here to make money. That's what it's all about. And I think that the service really helps people do that.
So generally when people, they're looking for an interview, maybe there's one that will fit them and help them more than others would. So it's kind of like finding the fit for them, because every trader is different and has different strategies as well.
Yeah, just like you talk to some people and you have an instant rapport with them.
Right.
You understand what they're talking about. And other people you meet, you just like, that dude's out there. I didn't quite connect with him. And so it's different for everybody. We're all human and we all have these different quirks about us. And so you never quite know which one's going to fit for you. And I tell people, even if this guy's talking about Forex and you're not a Forex trader, there's probably something in there about how he looks at the markets that you can apply to the market that you do trade. So I always tell people, don't just disregard it because they don't trade the market you do. I'm sure there's something you can learn from everybody.
Right. And you know what? I think this is really a great thing, and I always try to get around successful traders as often as I possibly can, just so that whatever they have, that it'll rub off and land on me. It's just kind of like the success formula, not just in trading, but in life, period. If you want to be successful, get yourself around successful people.
That's exactly it. And in trading, it's not easy to do. It's not easy to get a guy who lives in Cincinnati, Ohio, who has no reason to talk to you, to come out and tell you exactly what he's doing. But I think deep down, those traders know that, look, I can give you my exact system. And people say, well, why do they tell you that? Why do they tell you all their secrets? Aren't they afraid the word's going to get out? And the honest thing is that they can tell you exactly what they're doing. First of all, people are human, right? They're not going to try it because they don't want to put the work in, or they're gonna try and twist it a little bit so it won't work exactly the same. But again, they don't have that extra 10%, and good traders know that 10% is a big part of what they do well. So they're not afraid to tell me how they do it because they know. First of all, I'm not CNN or the Wall Street Journal. I don't have millions of people to my site every month. It's thousands, right? And so they realize that even if they give you the exact system, that not everybody is going to put in the hard work, and it is work too. So they realize. I think they're comfortable talking about what they do.
Right. Well, a system's never going to make you money. It's applying the system and using it. And you can throw out a system, and it's just so hard to pick up unless you've been really working at it for a long time.
Yeah, and it's like any other business. You could listen to the story of Bill Gates and Steve Jobs and exactly how they started their companies. Are other people going to go out and do the exact same thing? I suppose they could if they tried hard, but it also has to do with a little bit of luck, a little bit of timing, and a hell of a lot of hard work, and not everybody's willing to put that time in. But if you are, there's ways to get there. The path is pretty clear.
Yeah, absolutely. You got to want it.
Absolutely.
Okay, well, I'm going to finish up with a question that's similar to what you said is one of your favorite questions, and I want to know is, do you have any recommendations for a trader that's struggling and is trying to make it? What would you say would be your best recommendation to get an edge in the market?
Yeah, I did this video a while back, and it's on our site called The 20 Habits of Wealthy Traders. And I think the one habit that really resonated with me that I started hearing over and over again with traders, and it wasn't until I started thinking about the markets this way that I started to actually make money on a regular basis. I don't win every single trade. I don't have a 90% win ratio, but consistently, month after month, I have confidence that I can make money. And it was, I stopped thinking about the markets as being cheap or expensive. Instead I started thinking about the markets as, is somebody going to be willing to pay more or less for this in 5 minutes, 10 minutes, an hour, tomorrow, next week? So that you stop thinking that something is cheap or expensive, and you only think about whether people are going to be paying more or less for this later. And it's kind of a small nuance to trading, but I think it's a huge paradigm shift in how you think of the markets. Because GM looked probably pretty cheap at $20, right, until it went to $2. And so you start thinking about the market only in terms of whether people are willing to pay more or less based on human psychology, based on technical analysis. And so you stop making these biases, you stop making these judgments about whether something is cheap or expensive. That really gets traders into trouble, especially newer traders. I mean, that option that's 25 cents, that's just a little bit out of the money, that expires in 3 days, you could load up the truck with that stuff and make tons of money if it goes the right way, but there's a reason it's cheap. Is because people are not going to be willing to pay more for it later. So just thinking that way about it and changing that mindset for me was a big deal. It was a big step for me in trying to make money on a regular basis.
That makes a lot of sense. Or like trying to short something because it's gone up forever. Well, the reason is because people want it for a reason.
That's right. That's right. And that's not to say that, contrarian traders or people that try to find tops or bottoms or reversals is not a decent strategy. But it's just to say that, something's going to reverse because it's gone up for so long and RSI looks like it's turning over. You got to get beyond that and think, okay, it's gone up for a long time. Everybody agrees it's in this great trend. Is it going to continue tomorrow? Are people still going to be willing to pay more for this tomorrow? And that's the question to ask.
Well, Tim, thank you so much for spending the time with me today.
You got it. Thanks for your time, Casey. I appreciate it.
I appreciate it, and there's a lot of good information in here. And if you guys want to get more information about Tim's trader interviews, you can click the link that's attached to this video. Thank you.
Thanks, Casey.
Okay.